And our great friend Dave Petzo is with us. Sometimes, and I apologize, you distract me. I'm sitting there talking to you, and then I'm supposed to pitch it to Larry, and then I say Dave. So, in this era where everybody's a victim and we don't take responsibility at all.
You were clearly victimized.
I was hanging out with my parents while they were here for 50 for 50, and we were on our way to go out to eat, and we were supposed to go to one place where my dad liked, and then my mom is a big fan of this other place, and so I said, hey, why don't we go here? And all of a sudden she was very excited. My dad goes, he did it to me again. He did the double cross. And I did so unknowingly. And so my mom says, well, no, we can go to your place, dear. And he goes, no, I choose to be a victim. And I love that saying, I choose to be a victim.
Exactly. It's a kind of unfortunate symptom of our society.
Yeah, well,
I'm victimized, I'm offended. I'm offended all the time.
Well, and you and I grew up in America, and I think most of us did here at KIDO Talk Radio, where being offended was no big deal. It was a rite of passage. Things were offensive. People were, offended people back and forth. Today, it's very strange. So let me ask you, as we see this millennial generation taking over, if you will, going into the workforce, a lot of things have changed. What's it like for the rest of us to try and figure that out? Do we need a translator? Do we need AI to help us integrate?
We're all struggling, right? I say on Saturday, Kevin, I kind of opened. I didn't know what I wanted to talk about.
Wait a minute, you were not prepared?
I was prepared.
Dave Petzo was
prepared.
Breaking news.
I didn't just want to talk about the markets. We all knew the markets soared last week.
Right. Another good week for the markets.
And yet another one.
As our curmudgeonly press corps, how we love to report that.
I know.
We live for the bad news.
You do. I know. Finally we get a correction, and then it's all over the front pages. I know. But I started off, and it just was one of those things, Kevin, asking the question, what does it matter with us? I mean, we're in a world, the kids are not safe going to school. I mean, it's a frightening thing, and where everybody has decided that any event that happens becomes politicized, and we can't try to deal with the grassroots. So, Kevin, I just think that there's such offense in everything that happens nowadays, that kids can't grow up normal, whether it's all the violence and all the games and all the TV and all those things. It's a lack of God in our world and in our lives. It's a lack of any personal responsibility to just simply say, suck it up, kid, for crying out loud. Guess what? There are losers in life. There's losers in a game, not losers in life. You lose. You learn to lose is how you learn to win. I mean, life isn't a constant series of everybody wins, and just because you participate, you're such a star. And all of these things kind of, to me, combine and say, what is the matter with us when we've gotten so far away from the grassroots, and we think we have a simple solution, like if we banned assault weapons. That just means bad guys have them. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that we vote down a 6th, 7th, and 8th month term abortion. I mean, we can't even talk about that as if now that means women won't get contraceptives. These are the things that are I think bothersome to our millennials, and we've let them down. I'm not going to blame them. We've let them down.
I haven't let them down. How have we let them down? I think that excuses their personal responsibility. I mean, if they were pampered or what have you, then so be it. But look, I'm a patriot. I'm an analog guy. I didn't let him down. I mean, you have LeBron James saying that his feelings were hurt because Laura Ingraham said, just shut up and dribble. And then, as you've talked about, instead of having a discussion about an issue, what we're doing is we're vilifying people that disagree with us and trying to silence them.
And we can't talk about it.
Right.
We can't talk about how to come to better terms about mental illness and things like that. Should the schools have lockdowns and not allow people in and out of them all day long? Things like that are real solutions to the problem.
Well, I think it comes down to funding, too. I mean, in some schools you do have it where they have the key card to get in and those sorts of things. And as horrifying as school shootings are, there are millions of people that, let's cross our fingers and pray to God, that go to school every day in complete comfort and complete safety.
Yep.
And, we have the hyperbole meter. We have the rise of the faux outrage. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we are today. when we're taking a look at this.
Yeah. Well, we are. It is. We all have to have some kind of something to be outraged about.
Yes,
this
it used to be. It used
yeah.
to be just the talk show host was outraged.
It was you.
Now,
you were it.
Now everybody's in on the act.
Yeah.
So Dave Petzo is with us here. We will take your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KID. Do you have your headphones over there?
I do.
Oh, good.
No, I don't. No, they've been stolen again.
Well, there you go again, being negative.
Well,
if you want to go over to the studio, I'll hold the fort here for a minute. If you want to grab the headphones from
you want
Ray.
me to go get them from Ray?
Well, I think we're going to take some calls here. So Dave Petzo is with us, Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about possibly the end of Walmart. We'll talk a little bit about if you're Smith & Wesson, if you're in the gun business, really what's going to happen. Is this a good time to be in the gun business, or are we going to have the rage against the machine and everything else take away our right to keep and bear arms? You see people turning over their guns. So let's go to our first call. Joe in Meridian with Kevin Miller and Dave Petzo. Good morning, Joe.
Kevin and Dave, how you guys doing?
Well, Joe, thanks.
Good. Hey, just blessed to be in Idaho, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about the gun control issue, and I really think it gets down to personal responsibility. Kevin talked about it earlier. We all have a personal responsibility to protect our families and keep ourselves safe, and I think what happens is you try to take criminals who are evil people who do shootings like this and try to come up with all the reasons why, if this would have happened or that would have happened, they may not have done a violent act, right?
Right.
And I agree that you want to look at that, but you can't excuse the act itself. And that's what our liberal society is doing. And then these same liberals, instead of penalizing that person and putting the judgment on that person for the evil act, they're putting it on all the innocent people who own guns. And it's a subtle thing. They try to act like it's the gun that causes the problem. But really what they're doing is they're penalizing the law-abiding citizen for the action of the evil person that did the act. And if you ban bump stocks, which, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of bump stocks, but the point is you can make an automatic gun fairly easily if you customize. And you look at these shooters, and if you're going to ban a bump stock, what are they going to do? Well, if they really want to shoot a bunch of people, they're going to just alter their gun to be automatic. The point is we got to be better at figuring out how we protect ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's not as easy as just saying we're going to ban a bunch of guns. That's a cop-out. And it really bothers me when people do that, because really they're penalizing the people that are doing the right thing. And that's not a good justice.
Well, it's not just a penalty to them. It does nothing to solve the underlying problem. It's a Band-Aid. It isn't going to solve the problem by putting stocks on guns and somebody would make a bomb. All of these things are always in flux. If somebody is bound and determined to do something heinous like that, they're going to find a way. And certainly it's no different than banning alcohol and guns back in the 30s. Who had all the alcohol and guns? The bad guys did. That's what ends up happening. So it's not, you can't take back 200 years of plus years of our right to bear arms. It's not like they just are going to disappear and poof of smoke. They're not.
Exactly.
So we can't.
So I mean, you look at terrorist acts, violent crimes per capita here in cities where there's not already safe zones and gun-free zones, and they have all these restrictions, and it's not really that bad. I think the issue is you got to look at what are you trying to encourage in our schools, and it gets back to me. So let's protect our schools. Let's figure out ways to protect as much as possible from these types of things happening. Let's get field carry teachers in there. Let's do threat assessment. Let's actually act on actionable intelligence, right?
Right.
Let's do those things. I mean, we already figured out that there was a problem with the FBI acting on this. Why does that mean that we have to solve the problem by penalizing gun owners? That's ridiculous.
Joe, that's a great call. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Dave Petzo with us as we continue on. You want to talk about something different?
We could. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Sometimes I talk about finance. Sometimes.
It's not about me.
Is that
never about
really,
me, brother.
Really? This is your show. This is all about you.
No,
100%.
This is owned by a corporation based in Connecticut, and I am their representative. I'm just barely the keeper of the flame.
You
until
are.
they decide to move on.
You're an amazing keeper of the flame. You've done a great job. It's burning bright.
Yes, like my color of my face right now.
Burning bright.
Let's go to Pete in Mountain Home on KIDO Talk Radio with Dave Petzo.
Good morning, Dave and Kevin.
Good morning, Pete.
A couple things I'd like to point out is the shooting at San Bernardino County by the two Islamic terrorists who knew everybody there, and folks thought they were friends. That was a gun-free zone, and they used, California's banned assault weapons for quite a while, and that's what they had, that they got illegally. You could probably do more damage in a school shooting with a Remington 870 pump shotgun loaded with buckshot than with a .223, and God forbid that should happen. And it's funny, after we have a Muslim terrorist attack, we are immediately told we cannot blame all Muslims for the actions of a few, but when we have some nutcase who is probably on or coming off of psychotropic drugs kill a bunch of people, all of a sudden we can blame everyone in the NRA. And that really, really frosts me. As an NRA member, I don't know of any NRA members that are criminals. I really don't. Criminals don't join the NRA. And finally, for both of you guys, I've seen a T-shirt that you might be interested in. I see them in various catalogs. And it says, "I would like to apologize to all those I have not yet offended. Please be patient."
That's good.
And that's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, that's a pretty valid point. It's a pretty valid point.
But if you want to blame anyone for the school shootings, I blame the Clinton-era gun-free zone school law, and I blame the administrators of the schools, the school boards, who undoubtedly are liberals who hate guns, for prohibiting their teachers from carrying the really effective means of defending themselves and their students. I'm sure that coach down there in Florida, while he was being shot, trying to protect those students, I'll bet he wished he had a gun.
Great call, Pete. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. All right, Dave Petzo, you're going to have to put your headphones on because, again, more people want to talk to you.
It messes up my hair,
Look, and by the way, I'm jealous of all your follicles. My follicles are leaving me.
Mine are too. It's just, isn't it great as we get older, you lose it up top?
You're not losing
anything.
No,
I'm not. You're right. My hair's good.
This is right. Exactly. He comes in, everything's great. And he's got all his follicles. Well, never mind. All right, 580-5436. We are talking about the issues that impact you. And then coming up in the next half hour, we will talk about, the markets, because Walmart could be in trouble, believe it or not.
Walmart had a really bad announcement yesterday. Really rocked the market.
Unlike you, who life is great.
Life is good.
Poor Walmart.
Yeah.
All right.
Suffering Walmart.
We go to Rick in Boise. Rick, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning. Hey, those last two callers brought up a couple points that you can't mistake. The 12-gauge shotgun. My gosh. I remember a long time ago when I worked at the prison, a convict, as he claimed himself, said there's only two things that a convict doesn't mess with. That's a 12-gauge shotgun and a pissed-off dog. The shotgun doesn't miss and the dog doesn't negotiate. Second point. A caller called the other day and said, why don't we have a couple of our, retired special forces? I was retired Navy. I'm retired Navy. I knew a couple Navy SEALs, and I know if I was a punk kid and I went into somewhere, the odds of that Navy SEAL missing is going to be a whole lot less than me. So my ass is going to be dead. The last point came up when I was in high school when they still had phone booths. And the point was that the United States will not be attacked because of two reasons. The interstate, our ability to get military from one end of the country to the other, and our guns. There's no other country. China may have a 1 million-man army, but activate our civilian people like they did in Stalingrad. You don't have to arm us. We're armed. That's my point, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Time for traffic and weather. And we go back to the phones. Kelly in Boise on KIDO Talk Radio with Dave Petzo and Kevin Miller. Hello, Kelly.
bless you guys. Anyway, my mother mentioned the other day, she's 85, and it's not the guns. It's not the guns. It's our society and the fact that God is being taken out of our schools and the medications. And she was talking to me about the 40s and 50s where the kids used to bring their guns to school and go hunting after school. And they had more guns per capita, I believe, back then than they do now. And she had never heard of anything like these school shootings that are going on right now.
You know, Kelly, you remind me of my good friend. He's deceased now. We all know him, John Dwayne. Do you remember him from the radio days? He used to talk all the time about that, about the fact that they all went to school and they didn't even lock up their pickups. They all had shotguns in their pickups, and they all went to school and they fought, you know, like boys do. They fisticuffs, and that's it. Nobody ever anywhere went out and shot somebody. Nobody ever did that. It is not the guns.
They didn't call the cops if they got hit in the face or something. You know, they fought it out and worked it out themselves.
Yeah. Well, I did because I was a wimp, but no, I didn't.
That's what my mom was saying. But I just wanted to make that point. It's not the guns, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing it. I can just scream.
Yeah, we're all looking for a simple solution, and it is all sides looking for a simple solution, and society is very complicated, and this is a very complicated problem, and like your mom said, mental health is a big issue, but it is. I don't disagree with her. We took it's like the old saying, right? That God, why did you allow kids to be shot in school? And God answers, because I've been taken out of the schools.
Amen.
And so, these are the kinds of things that, I'm not allowed in the schools anymore. It's one of those things that is complicated. We can't say if we just put God back in the schools. It's a complicated thing that our society's run down the wrong way and created massive amounts of problems that we want to try to find a simple solution. If only we banned guns, if we only had locks on the door, that our society would be better. If only we had more patrols to keep drugs out of the schools. We all want simple solutions. I get that. When we have something so complex and we have a society where we can't even dialogue about normal things, we have to have this dialogue, and we've got to make tough decisions.
It's you and the millennials that won't have dialogue.
It's me and the millennials.
Yeah. Exactly.
My kids, I don't know what happened to them, but they're liberal, and I raised them in a Christian school. But they went to high school and public, and so I don't know what happened. But I can't even talk politics with them.
Yeah, don't give up.
For them.
That's the sad part. That's the sad part when your kids turn into libs. It's got to be tough.
There's nothing to talk about.
Right. Because the libs don't listen.
Yeah, or you get an argument. They get all pissy or whatever.
Yes. Don't do that. Don't do that. That one doesn't get anybody anywhere.
No, they do.
Well, then they're too big. You can't give them a smack. Oh, whoops.
No, you can't.
Kelly, thank you for the call.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you. It was great talking to you guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. More coming up next. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Good. All right. We're going to extend Dave Petzo. I know he's very excited about that. Let's go to Peyton from the Young Conservatives of Idaho on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Peyton.
Good morning, Kevin and Dave. Yesterday you gave me a great opportunity to speak to the children yesterday, and I feel like I failed at that. I wanted to take another chance and say that, the kids of this country need to realize that there's evil in this world, but there's other ways that we could be preventing these things from happening. And if they believe that even a sliver of our government is corrupt, then there's no argument for gun control until you can trust the people that are taking away the guns. Because I just don't understand how anyone could justify that. Also, I think that these mass shootings shouldn't be called mass shootings. It's suicide by killing spree. That's what these kids and sick people are doing. Also, I wanted to send a message to the adults. This stigma against millennials. I understand young people are always hard to get to. It's not just millennials, but the assault on the young people and just almost giving up on them and not trying to teach them and help them. A millennial that you see is just really a young person without the right guidance is going to end up becoming a bleeding heart liberal, because that's the way our society is created. If we let our schools raise our kids, they're going to become bleeding heart liberals. If we don't pay a close eye in raising our children, that's what's going to happen. That's the way our society is built to. Anyway, I just wanted to be quick and say some of those things. I'm sure I'm forgetting something that I wanted to say.
Well, you bring up a very good
anyway.
point. To be a conservative and to be a millennial is the toughest challenge today, because you're outgunned, you're outnumbered.
It's hard.
It is, and we appreciate you, Peyton.
It's a fact.
I
bleeding
think
heart
that it
liberals
backfired
always
and-
have the girls.
It backfired and got President Trump elected, but one of the hardest things about being a conservative is the liberal onslaught of calling everyone, racist, bigot. You're afraid to be called crazy if you speak of the corrupted government. It's just like,
Sure.
I don't know. People see it. I'm not the only one that sees it.
Well, we
have
appreciate
a great
you,
one.
and that's a good point. Thank you, Peyton.
That's right. It is. It's a tough thing. I mean, seriously.
Well, wait
you
a
look
minute.
at-
No.
I'm
You're not gonna
100% serious.
You're saying liberals get all the girls.
Well, they do. I mean,
No,
you got to
they
pretend. You
don't.
can't pretend to be a
Mamby-pamby.
conservative. You can't pretend to be a conservative
The
in
libs-
high school anymore.
No, they're drawn to the masculine conservative guys,
Really?
not the wimpy guys.
Yeah.
Maybe that was true in your day.
No. Are you
with
saying
the bell
that-
bottoms and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
you at least have that sensitivity of the Me Too. I mean, you have to at least do that.
Let's move on here. Big challenges for Walmart. Apparently, not a good quarter for Walmart. Number one, and number two, the idea that people are just going to check out.
Yeah.
Now, Walmart has gotten some good publicity, but by being proactive. By you can order at Walmart. They'll even have an employees deliver to your house.
Yep.
Now, before we get into this, how lazy have we become?
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right.
how lazy have we become where you can go to Fred Meyer, you can go to Albertsons, you can go to Walmart, and you can type in an order. I see these poor people. My boy Gary does a great job at Walmart on 10 Mile, and he's glad to be there. He does a great job. But, I mean, you got to go to the store, don't you?
Yeah,
do you go to the store?
I do.
You don't have a personal shopper?
I do not.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, what do you make of this?
I don't. I'm not an Amazon Primer either.
Well, anyway, let me
See, I knew we were going to out you right there.
I'm an Amazon Primer. However, back to this thing, we've created a new industry, I suppose.
Yep.
Where you have people being your personal shopper.
Yep.
What do you make of this, and what does this mean for Walmart right now?
No, I think that is something that busy people, especially in a city where it's difficult to get around and get and shop, is going to be used. And there are people that have excess money, and I mean, they've saved all that they need to save, and so on and so forth. And it's a function that that is creating a cottage industry. And I certainly have thought many times about things that I'm not any good at. If I could just have somebody that would assist me with technology, for example, and show me how things work better, what kind of technology I need. I don't need somebody necessarily to shop for me, but hey, that's a bonus, right? And that's the kind of personal assistance that a lot of people, and especially my generation, need. We don't know with technology, and I see that being another, if you will, personal shopper type of thing.
Well, let's talk about Walmart. Are they in trouble?
No, they're not. They've been on a tear, Kevin, and I think this is a reaction to the fact that the stock got way ahead of itself, that the company got way ahead of itself. They are the real deal competitor to Amazon. Good for them. Amazon needs a competitor, and Amazon's happy to have a competitor because they're going to get more and more pressure to break them up, because every industry they enter, they destroy, because it isn't fair. It isn't fair competition. If we're going to tell the Chinese they can't sell steel for less than the cost of production in order to run companies out, why do we let Amazon do it? It's exactly what they do, is that they sell things for less than anybody can sell them for, less than the cost of production, because they take money from the cloud, if you will, all of their different services, and they put it into all these other businesses in order to simply become the best real retailer in the world. That's, in my opinion, it's time to bust them up. This is a terrible, terrible model. And it is just very destructive. There's nothing that is competitive about Amazon. It's anti-competitive because they're destroying all of their competitors in their wake.
So the government, though, allows them to do that, though.
They are, and I don't think they should. I think they need to break it up. It's just absolutely ridiculous. You can take money from one area that makes a ton of money and put it into another area that loses money, so you can continue to destroy other businesses. You know, allowing companies to sell for less than the cost because they have money coming from another source is anti-competitive. It is not. It's not a positive thing at all to be destroying everybody in its wake.
Let's talk about another thing. Apparently, there's a new bill percolating it through the Idaho legislature that they want to make sure that anybody who buys something online has to pay state sales tax. Of course, the administration did cut a deal with Amazon, much to the chagrin of a lot of us. Now you have to pay for the tax on Amazon, but there are a lot of online retailers that you don't have to pay.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yep.
And the state, in its infinite wisdom, who has always been a fan of small businesses or businesses in Idaho. That's why they're not taxed as much as everybody else. And we're such a tax-friendly state, says that we're missing out on $22 million. Now, those local retailers aren't missing out on that revenue. The state is.
The state is.
I'm sorry for leading the witness here.
Yes, well, you are leading the witness, and I agree with you 100%. I don't like the idea of paying additional taxes. It goes into a sinkhole, but you have also got anti-competitive reasons you need to. People shouldn't be able to get an automatic 5% discount or 6 or 9 and 10% when you live in a higher taxed state, like, say, Washington State. When this doesn't make any sense at all. That sales tax, if you simply ship it, isn't applied. And so I think it's time to have a uniform, if you will, call it a competitive bill. Yes, it would make more taxes, but it is also something that is necessary for the competition of the local business as well.
Indeed, back to this point here at KIDO Talk Radio, though. So, I mean, I don't think anybody feels sorry for the state of Idaho that they're not collecting $22 million in taxes.
Right.
I don't see that going to the roads. By the way, love all the road construction going on.
Yes, that's true. It's true. No, Kevin, it doesn't. Nobody feels sorry about that, but we've got to do something to level the playing field. It's the same thing with breaking up Amazon. It doesn't destroy Amazon. Let them do what they're doing, but you can't take money from one area and put it into another money-losing area. That's not the way commerce it can work. It can't. It's nothing different than what the Chinese are doing to try to destroy our steel business or any other business that they're trying to dump product, like microchips from South Korea. Tried to destroy Micron multiple times by dumping chips at lower cost, taking money from another pocket, meaning in this case the government, and allowing this company to sit there and lose money in order to drive their competitors out of business. It's wrong.
And we're seeing that with your friends, the Chinese.
We are seeing
I've been warning about the Chinese for years.
I know, and I'm on your bandwagon now, Kevin. You sold me.
Hold on, now
you
that's scary that you're on the bandwagon.
Scared me too.
Well, how do you combat the Chinese then? Because they are so powerful. They do have so much going on. They own so much of our debt. You and I have talked about this before, and I was having a conversation here at KIDO Talk Radio with David Leroy, and David was saying that he's very concerned because it's like $1.35 of every dollar now. Was $1.35 we're paying for every dollar on the debt or something like that? Maybe I'm misquoting him there, but it could get to that point, and then you're going to have people that are buying our debt and saying we're not going to buy it anymore.
Yeah.
Now, you are a little bit more aggressive when it comes to debt. You're not so worried about it that, Nervous Nelly over here is.
I'm not as worried about debt. That's fair. That's a fair statement. To say that I'm not concerned about debt and the way we treat it and the fact that we just go ahead and write another $1 trillion off and put it on the balance sheet is in my mind an enormous problem. We've lost complete control, Kevin, and I think we have to get that back. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. What I'm saying when it comes to debt is that we focus on the wrong thing. We focus on debt as if government is not a problem. The size of government is not an impediment to business. It's not an impediment to your liberties and my freedom. It's not. That's what we act like when we say if we could just balance the budget, then we have the right amount of government, and we don't. And that's where I think having budget deficits, what I've always said is that having it there tempers the growth of government. It allows us to catch a breath and be focusing on it. So I like the focus on the deficit, that we need to have less government because more is worse. But I wish that argument was more government is always worse, Period. There isn't a but or subsection or another million pages of code that we need to write, like the IRS code is, about that discussion. It is simply, as government grows, we lose freedom. As government grows, we lose productivity. As government grows, money is sucked out of the system, and it becomes less productive, and our economy slows down. That's a fact, and I think that's why I get focused more on the fact that government needs to be shrunk, not the deficit.
Dave Petzo with us here, talking about your money, the host of Money Matters, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Dave Petzo, Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And at KIDO Talk Radio, our great friend Dave Petzo with us. So we've covered the Walmart, we've covered AI. Is this a good time to be in the gun business?
Yes and no. You have a friendly president. It's always a better time to be in the business when you're afraid that all the guns are going to be taken away. We saw that under Obama. Gun sales, ammunition sales soared. There was fear that it would be taken away. So it's a good time, but it's not such a good time because, hey, everybody can be in the business right now. So when we look at those types of things, Kevin, I don't see it as being particularly positive or negative. That you don't have the urge to hurry and get a gun because the government's going to ban it or make it very difficult to do.
Dave Petzo is joining us here. I want to talk to you about a couple other things, but obviously the death of America's pastor, Billy Graham.
Yeah,
you're a man of faith.
Yeah, it's a sad, and yet for those of us of faith, we're also happy for him because he spent his whole life talking about where he was going to go after he left this world. And, I mean, just consistency. What a life well lived. I just am amazed at what he has accomplished in his life. And to continue that with his sons is an incredible legacy. I just... You know, he's gone, and he has been out of the leadership role for quite some time, but not his son. And you think of the millions of people that have been, their lives have been completely, utterly changed because of him, because of an encounter with him. I can't think of his name, Louis something, Louis the survivor of the Japanese death camp, the sprint, the miler.
Right, they did the movie on
it.
Right.
He was his whole life was changed because of a Billy Graham crusade. His whole life, he was completely out and gone, and his marriage gone, and somehow his wife begged him to go to this deal, changed his life. Amazing.
Indeed, when we take about somebody who has made a difference, but there'll never be another Billy Graham, right?
I don't think so. There'll be another Joe or Harry, but he's a unique guy. That Billy Graham was something. I mean, to go from the White House to as an evangelist that traveled the world and changed millions and millions of lives, and yet had the kind of impact that you would have in the leadership of the most powerful nation in the world, in the United States. He visited with all the presidents, listened to all of them, prayed with all of them. It's a stunning, stunning life.
Indeed. So what should we be looking out for this week? Before we do that, let's do traffic and weather together at KID. And let's go to Pro-Life, who would like to talk about Billy Graham. Pro-Life, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, Billy Graham, I listened to him from time I was a little kid, and he never really got specific. He would preach and try to get you to accept Christ. And then he would say, now you need to find a good church. He wouldn't define what a good church is. And he would not define what really specifically you should do about morals. He never really said abortion is murder. He never really said that socialism is collective theft. He did not get specific. His son, Franklin, is actually better than he is in being specific about what you should do. And that's why everybody accepts Billy Graham, is because he never got specific. And so Democrats, Republicans, everybody, they know him as Mr. Christian, but they don't know specifically what he really believed because he never would tell you. And so maybe this is a criticism of Billy Graham, but that's just the way he was, and that's why he's honored so broadly today. But if you get specific about what's really right and wrong, then you're not accepted very widely. And that's why politicians, see, what they try to do is offend the least number of people that they can and still get elected. And so that's just the way big preachers and big politicians do it. So that's my comment.
Well, fair enough, pro-life. God bless.
God bless you guys. Thanks for Dave Petzo bringing up the life issue there.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
So what are we looking forward this week? What's going to happen?
Earnings season is done, Kevin, and so the corporations are now going to have this kind of quiet period where we've just come off of all this volatility. But the reality is, as we look forward, I would tend to be thinking we're going to start seeing some upgrades of companies because earnings are going to be better because of the tax bills. So I think we're going to start focusing more in the coming weeks, not necessarily this week, but in the coming weeks on the idea that corporations are not overpriced, because we're also talking about tax cuts across the board, and the economy has already been picking up steam before tax cuts hit. So I think we're going to see stronger and stronger. We had an amazing earnings season, up over 15% so far in earnings year over year. 15 is a huge, huge jump. We haven't seen that since 2011. So it's an amazing jump in corporate earnings, again, making the market not overpriced relative to its norms because it is growing. Corporate profits are growing so fast. If the focus is there, I think the market steadies itself and we go ahead and march back to new all-time highs.
Yeah, but the other hand is, we've had some corrections. What do you make of that? Just a bump in the road?
Yeah.
Eventually, and I say this for many years now, there has to be some type of correction, and we'll see the panic that we've seen before.
Kevin, corrections are normal. I'll give you a couple statistics here, okay? 5%
really, but
corrections.
Was this correction really normal, considering it happened for a week and then it's back to Katie bar the doors? Usually corrections are months or years.
No. Now, you can. What you mean by there is a bear market.
Yes.
Okay, a bear market.
When is the bear coming?
The bear is coming. Yes, if we only knew. You'd never know where the bear is coming, and we always do get them. About once every 3.5 years, if you want to know the numbers. Okay, we get a 20% or greater correction about once every 3.5 years. It's been years and years since we had a 20% correction. 10% correction occurs once per year on average. We just had one. Okay?
Right.
And a 5% correction happens more than 3 times per year on average. You would think that a 5% correction was some kind of thing you should be gaming or timing based on all the media play it gets when it happens over 3 times per year. It's incredible. So anyway, Kevin, corrections are normal. Bear markets are a little more rare, and they normally occur when we have some reason, meaning an economic downturn. We get a little ahead of ourselves. We get a bubble. And it's not something that just because it's time that we get. They don't happen that way. They happen in a way that is based on something that may occur every 7 years or 10 or 12. It doesn't have to happen on a timetable of every 3.5 years.
Dave Petzo with us here on KIDO Talk Radio. You can reach him at Petzo Financial, Petzo Center, and at social media on Facebook and Twitter. Back to the whole social media thing. Facebook is doing some new things. Twitter is profitable. How do you see the more digital presence? Is that going to continue to grow?
It is, Kevin, and it is something that throws us off. The millennials like it. They grew up with it. It throws us off, and it's also, I think it throws society off as we try to transition into this face-to-face thing, and everybody's trying to look so great on their selfies and social media, Facebook. And I think that'll pass. I hope it does. If everybody is, me fixated, then they really don't get any work done. And our society will continue to have problems like we've been talking about today. We can't be all about ourselves. We have to be about others. And I know millennials think they are, but they bury their faces in their Facebook, and it's not about others. It's about themselves. And most all society, I agree with that caller earlier, that young people need to be respected for who they are. They're just young people trying to figure it out. And I do think that the social media has been part of that problem, though, Kevin. I really do.
Dave Petzo, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, on Facebook, on Twitter. You tweeting lately at all?
I'm not a tweeter. Sorry.
You have someone do that for you?
I can't. Well, we tried for a while. It just doesn't really fly.
You heard it here first. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.